And so, with that, Eden Zero is now officially over. 293, chapter 293 of Eden Zero. The anger and felt the despair you rolled on Eden Zero, and that was probably going to be my last thing to review. Well, at least until a couple of years. Well, unless, of course, I don't live that anymore. I mean, a lot of people lose their will to live, and I'm no exception. And more the fact that what to do now, I have no idea, and I need to find that out. But I'll always keep this around. Someone needs to watch better videos after all. But we're not here to talk about depressing things, or more like pathetic things. We're here to talk about the final chapter of Eden Zero, 293. And so we see Xiao Mei again. Despite the fact that she turned back into Luna, we see her after spanning several cosmos and timelines. The adventure comes to a close. Thank you for joining us. Now I present the final chapter of this tale. And so we are changed back to the planet Grambel, where Shiki is now more of a tinkering. We don't know how many years has passed, and uh, and although Pino has shut down, she has not been buried. She is now, well, what is the correct word to say this? Her body is now placed as a monument in the working shop, and so it turns out that Shiki, as I said before, returned to Grambel together with the great Demon King, and now and now the sisters, no, sorry, the Shining Stars also live here, and it actually turns out that Rebecca is also here because Rebecca and Shiki in the end decided to get well married and have a child together. The scenario then switched to Norma, as it as it turns out that Wise and Mio. Sorry, I was actually wrong about this. Turns out that all the Shining Stars were not in Grambel, because it turns out that Hermit and Wise are together, and uh, and they have actually returned to, I think, the time displaced planet of planet Norma, and they're saying that they can get to Grambel pretty easily because they have now designed this new ship. Uh, then scenario switched to audio. Once again, I was actually wrong. I really should have read the chapter full on strung and remembered everything. The only shining stars that were in Gravel was Sister and Witch. Hermit were with Wise. On Norma, well, it turns out that Valkyrie is in Planet Audio, and sorry, where Homura have actually returned with her mother, as well as the 1+ million power people. Oh, we don't see the Shogun's son. And the planet Grambel, they also meet. We also meet up with the other gangs, including Laguna, as well as the Ruthord siblings and the streamers of it all. What they have been doing is not exactly known, but they have been moving very well. As Rebecca begins to give birth to a new child, the scenario then switches suddenly to robot Pino, standing before once again the projection of Mother. Although she has now returned to Earth, Mother is still here. So, and because she is the planet's memory, a world of time, life, and death. And now that she is saved, she returned to her true planet. She, Mother says it is time for her to help. It's time for Mother to help Pino, she says, and she can actually grant her the wish to be born again. You gave Shiki the support he needed, and I grant you a life. Do you wish? And they will soon have a human girl, as it actually turns out that Shiki and Rebecca will have a human girl, and she can actually give her the means to be born as that child, and she will live as a human. And even though, and just as the child is born, however, it actually turns out that Pino chose not to be born as that child, because she actually despite all of her wish of being born as the child of, uh, uh, as we're going to, sorry, as she was just about to be born as that human child, she actually chose to be born back as an android because Shiki and Rebecca were going to name her Pino because, after all, it's a memory. However, Pino says, I refuse to let you use my name without my authorization, as she is now reactivated. And although she decided to skip on her dream of being born a human, she says that Master Child is his child, and he and she went on this adventure in this form because she is she. Despite her wish of once having been born human, she has actually come to accept that it doesn't matter if you're a human or a machine. To her master or any friends on the Eden Zero, she will always be Pino, the android. And thus the story of Eden Zero ends on a happy note as we don't see the child of Rebecca and Shiki, but she is born, a human girl, but she is not a reincarnated Pino because Pino is revived back as an android. That was her choice. In a way, I guess that makes sense because, well, Pino always saw Shiki more as her master, being reborn as a human girl, even though she wouldn't have her memory. I don't think she would have accepted that. But she is now back. So in the end, she got a happy end. That brings the conclusion to Eden Zero. Is it a satisfying conclusion? It is sweet, but not completely satisfying, no. After all, we never saw the conclusions of the other people of the Universe Zero. We never saw a quick blick on what happened to Drakenyo, the Interstellar, as well as Shura and everything else. If you ask me, we should have actually gotten that. So this just feels a little rushed. But hey, if there's one thing I can always criticize Hiro Mishima for, is the fact that when he is rushing, he is really, really rushing. And thus the stories may not, the conclusion of his stories may not always be as satisfying as everything else. In fact, arguably one of his most satisfying conclusional mangas has always been his first, Raid Master, because to me that felt it was wrapped up perfectly. While many complain on that ending, especially the fact that it just felt like this, I felt it very sweet because it actually brings forth a very big conclusion, and that was, is this world ours? Well, the stars says yes. And I actually didn't mind the fairy tale ending. Granted, it didn't end because, well, we got 100 Years Quest. A series I did review, but in the end stopped because I was just that tired. And this brings now the end to Eden Zero, one of his more darker mangas, but then he created Dead Rock, and Dead Rock is obviously his darkest. So again, I don't know what I will review ever again, but hey, I will always keep this YouTube channel on, or at least as long as I keep living. We don't know what happens. As I said before, there are just too many depressings in life. But either way, this is Eden Zero. The final arc may have been a little meh, but come on, that's just how Hiro Mashima works, so I'll accept that. And if you think about it, as I said before, this is not a complete happy ending. Yes, it's a complete happy ending for our protagonists, but for everything else, no. As I said before, the Dark Stars never got a happy ending. Granted, they were destroyed, so of course they couldn't get a happy ending, but that is still, they unintentionally, well, intentional or not, they became the tragic villains of this manga. Because if you look at it the other way, that's just what they became. They were meant to become just like the Shining Stars, but the Eden's One destroyed it. The Eden's One, I don't classify him as a tragic villain. I guess classify him as a villain with I know not a flat villain. Well, like a broken villain. A villain with no purpose. And I don't mean in the story, a purpose within himself. because you forgot about that. Maybe that is, in your opinion, a flat villain. But that is it. And for that, I bid you adieu.